Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are so honored to have our good friend joining us again, Dr. Mamiko Odegard. She's a psychologist, relationship therapist, best-selling author, life success coach, you name it. She wears many titles, but first and foremost, she's just an amazing person, an amazing soul who loves helping so many people. She's got a lot of different cool things, the way she works and coaches and does, but I just want her to say hello first and give us a little taste of Dr. Mamiko. Tell us what you're all about.
Oh, my pleasure. And thanks for that great introduction.
You're welcome.
The way you introduced me and how we get started always brings a smile to my face, for sure. So I appreciate you so much, Jill.
Thank you.
And, I am an award-winning coach as well as an international expert in love and relationships. And that love and relationship passion really started with my husband of over 30 years. And he and I are so happy and so much in love even after all these years. So I'm here to tell you that you can keep love within your heart and in your actions, and that's going to take care of the rest so that you can really be thriving within yourself and in relationships. And I'm going to talk to you more about exactly how we get started today.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. We're excited to have you back. And I know for today we have a great show lined up. Let's just quickly recap a little bit about last week. I know we talked about how our past obviously affects our present and future. And that's even with the quality of happiness, acceptance, capacity to love ourselves and others. So let me just have you hone in on that a little bit and just give us a little background of what people could have missed and they can still go back.
Okay, so one of the things that I want people to know is that our past determines our present and our future. But before I go into some of that information, I just want you to know that most of us in growing up experienced some sort of trauma or disturbance or conflicts in terms of family members. And so there was actually a study that was done by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, and they found out that 2/3 of all kids had experienced trauma by the age of 16. And obviously, if you talk to these kids, you'll find that there are multiple layers of trauma. And you might think, well, what is trauma? We keep hearing about trauma and PTSD. And what I want you to know is that trauma occurs when we feel threatened, frightened, powerless, confused, and overwhelmed by a situation. So it can be sexual in nature, it can be physical, it can be emotional, being berated over and over. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be limited to kids because we can experience our trauma in adulthood as well as in adolescence. And so as an example, in adulthood, believe it or not, many of the people that I work with, whether it's singly or together as a couple, have experienced infidelity. And when there's infidelity, whether it's emotional or physical that takes place, that is trauma. People don't realize that it's PTSD, just like in combat or other situations where physically we're in danger. And the reason for that is we have so many different triggers that reawaken that fear and that stress and that uncertainty. And so, things that, as an example, our partners might say, this happened X amount of time ago. Why do you keep bringing this up? Why do you keep bringing that up? It's time for you to get over it and move on. And so we get this harsh bottom line approach. And so I'm telling you that the past, especially in the early years, can influence us through adolescence, through adulthood. One, because we end up getting connected with other people that end up exacerbating our trauma. So, when I do work with couples, it's very common that I actually find that their parents would oftentimes, quote, cheat. And so there was always uncertainty about whether they were going to stay or leave. And then certainly they didn't have the time to really devote their full attention. And so one of the things is that most of us are looking for love all of our lives, and especially those people that have been abandoned in some way or feel abandoned or feel neglected. And so they're looking for love. But that trauma begins to resurface over and over because there's something that's called a trauma bond. And the trauma bond is when you feel like you're being attracted over and over to the type of perpetrators where you then re-experience the pain. And so that's why I'm saying to you that this is really serious in terms of our childhood and our responsibility as adults to give the best and the healthiest care as possible, because our kids begin to reflect what we're showing them and how we're treating them, how our deepest feelings are expressed toward them, and so forth. And that deepest feeling might not be love. It might be anger, and it might be rage, which is out of control anger. So, and in summary, I'm just telling you that it's so important to go through the past as to what's happened to you and how each person became the persons that they are, because our past determines who we are now and what we become. And you want to use that to your advantage so that you know the pitfalls of where you're stumbling and where you need to have that further healing.
Beautifully said. My goodness. I love it. So really, how are we starting? Can we just start to be, to create that new person or that relationship that all of us so deeply need?
Well, that's what everybody's like, jumping up and down in their chairs.
I know.
Like, how do we get started with this? Mm-hmm. And what I want you to know is that it's very easy. Obviously, if you can, work with someone that you trust, that's a coach, that can guide you and teach you the things that you don't know. But for most of us, a starting point would be to get out your journal or your notebook and begin to list the qualities that you like and love about yourself. So start out, number one, with those positives, because I want you to be aware of the gifts that are within you, not just what's wrong. And you got to be centered in that way so that you can remind yourself, excuse me, as to what it is that's special, that's unique about you, because we all are different. We all are unique. We all deserve to be loved and to not only gain love, but to know how to give that. So that's why you want to start with that, so that it gets you away from the criticalness and a sense of perfectionism that so many people have. Like, they're flawed if they make a mistake, when really that gives you more information as to how you can strengthen yourself. So the next thing that you want to do in your notebook is to list the qualities that cause you difficulty, that you do not like about yourself, or that impede the level of happiness, intimacy, your ability to love, ability to choose healthy partners and enjoy true happiness and success. Like, for instance, you might think that you're, shy and awkward, and that's one of the things that you dislike about yourself because you don't know how to start conversations, or you feel too nervous and not confident with talking and listening to another, so that you just perpetuate this by being quiet. And by being quiet, it just affirms to you that your input is invaluable. You don't have anything that's worth sharing. Or you look consistently at the computer and phone, and so you hide as a way from other people. And that's something that you see as a pattern because you don't know how to approach them or what to say. Or you miss or you ignore physical cues. Or you don't know how to show emotional support and tenderness or compassion or empathy because you never got it in your family. But you also cover up low self-esteem by dominating conversations, talking about yourself, boasting about what you do, don't do, and not show any interest in getting to know someone else. And so what you do, and this is something that I want you to take special note of, because we've all done it, and we still might continue to do it, and that is to compare ourselves with others. Because whenever you compare yourself with others, you feel inadequate. You always find somebody that's more beautiful or handsome, taller, slimmer, has that body build that you want, or, seems to be so at ease with people. And so that's why you begin to feel inadequate, and then you begin to lose your confidence. And most importantly, you begin to have a sense of shame where
Yeah.
you're inadequate, you're less than, you're different. And, or you might be jealous of other people.
Yeah.
And so there's just so many things
Yeah.
that get in our way. And so another one is this win-win mentality is so important for us to have. So when we talk to other people, we want to both come out ahead, which means compromising sometimes or coming up with a brand new solution. And maybe that's something that you've been taught from the very beginning, that you've got to be competitive. You've got to win at all costs. So I'm saying to you, take a look at about you. If you're being totally honest,
Yeah.
what is it that is getting in your way, and what do you want to change?
Wow. Thank you so much. It's so
Now,
easy
let
coming.
me, let
Go
me
ahead. Go
just
ahead.
interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'm on a roll here. But, going back to the list, one of the things that I want you to do is to begin to list your whys. And when I talk about whys, it's your motivation, it's your determination. It helps all of that. It gives you strength to really get to where you want to go because, it allows you to go deeper and deeper as to the real reasons as to why you want to make those changes, how that's so important to you. So I want to give you some examples of some whys, and that is you want to change. You want to let go of being so critical and focused on your own shortcomings and those of other people because you feel isolated, you feel depressed, you feel alone, you feel like you're on a self-destructive course, or you want more love and you want to be accepting more of yourself, and you want to develop skills where you're more attractive to yourself and others. You want to let go of shame so you can fully achieve. You're tired of feeling inadequate and unworthy, and you want the changes to be so that you actually attract and keep healthier relations and people who truly care about you. So those are 3 steps to really get us started, and for you to take a neutral but also a proactive opinion and feelings about yourself.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. Oh my gosh, we are on a roll here, Dr. Mamiko. There's so much more that we still have to get to. Where did you want to go next? My goodness, there's a lot.
That's right. Well, thanks for giving me the leeway.
You're
It's like
welcome.
a runaway train to it,
You're welcome.
all this inertia that's taking place. Well, and so the next thing is last week, we spent the time talking about how important to examine our family of origin. So
Yeah.
here's something that you can do. That's again another list that
Yeah.
you put in your notebook. But this time, what you do is you go back to your childhood, to the family that you grew up in, the house that you grew up in, or apartment, or whatever the case might be, and the different people that were in your life at that time. And we typically start with the parents so that you put them separately
Yeah.
and you describe mom or dad and their characteristics, your relationship with them, how they treated you, how they showed you love, as an example, or didn't show you love. And so you go on to the next person. And once you talk about your parents, you talk about the people that are the oldest sibling, or I should back up a little bit because in many cases of the people that I work with, then they may not have had both parents there or neither parent there. And so they grew up with their grandparents or with an
Yep.
aunt and uncle. And so whoever is the adult in the family, or oftentimes stepdads and stepmoms, you want to be able to find out their, description of each of those persons because
Yeah.
that's important to determine who you are and where
So
some,
true.
the concerns and the issues lie. And so you want to be able to then go down from the sibling down to the youngest, and you definitely want to
Yeah.
include yourself as your own self-description as to how would you describe yourself. So
Oh,
this gives you a big head start, right?
it
Of really
really, really does,
understanding
right?
where you are. But when I do this with couples, it's really interesting because I'll take each person separately and go through this, and all of a sudden there's much more of a light bulb that goes on for
Yeah.
them, and so much more tenderness because all of a sudden the behaviors that were so irritating
Yeah.
from the partner, then the other partner begins to see that it's not about them. It's not personalized. So they're able to depersonalize, and they're able to be more present and be more supportive and loving and really understand where the other person is coming from. And that is a key to growth for both of them.
Beautifully said. Wow. And, all these journeys that we go on, and it's like, you mentioned, it's also about growing up like with inconsistency in the home and favoritism, trauma, put downs, and all that thing. So, how do some kids just grow up to be healthy adults? I mean, some don't. People blame it on their childhood, blame it on their past. But is it true that no matter what you've been through, you can succeed and have a better life? Because you hear some Debbie Downer type people like, oh, well, I didn't have this, I didn't have that. And those are the ones that aren't. And then you also hear the people, oh, I didn't have this, I didn't have that, but now I'm this. Like, is it in our core genetics, or is it maybe you just need a little coaching to figure out, because we've all had some bad in our lives, right? But I just
Right.
feel like we can really do anything we want. And
Yes. And
even
what
if
I
we
want
came from an abused
everybody to
family,
know,
something that horrible to think of, but yeah.
right, is that we each can have different people that I like to call them angels in our lives. And, you might have come from an abusive, background where your parents were harsh with you, corporal punishment, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, all those sorts of, unsavory actions. So then you become a scared, frightened child, and you become that way more and more as an adolescent and as an adult. But these examples of having a parent that's continually attacking you verbally and putting you down, you have a choice. You can soak it all in and be a sponge, or you can do the opposite. And that is to say, I don't like what's happening to me. Every time I'm criticized and brutally, assassinated by these words and these actions. And so when I become an adult, I'm going to learn to be really loving. And I definitely want to have children, and I want to be the best parent that I can. So, starting with my partner or spouse, I want to give that person compliments. I want to learn how to love and to really show affection. I never got any hugs. And so, I want to be able to be the one who instigates it. So again, it's about acting on love. Whatever it is that you want, give it to yourself and to the other person first. And so we have these angels, going back to that, and that might be a teacher who took special interest in you because, you came in with ratty clothes, didn't
Yeah.
have all those sorts of things. And so she knew that you were gifted and that you were special in some way. And when I say gifted, not necessarily just intellectually, but that you were a special, unique child who deserved to have the best attention from her. And so, or him. And so that person became almost like your surrogate parent, or your aunt or uncle might have taken special interest because you didn't have a father. And so that uncle then played games with you and introduced you to fishing and other, activities where you could fit in more with your age group. So I'm saying to you that you have a choice of seeing the dysfunction in your family and thinking that's normal and that's the way you're going to
Yeah.
be. Or you have the choice of looking at that and saying, I am going to rise above it. I am better than that. I'm higher, and somehow instinctively I know that I can be better. And so you make that choice. So in my personal example, I think I mentioned last week about how my parents were the fracases. And so when the parents are fighting, the kids obviously get very stressed.
Yeah.
So they were an example of what I didn't want. I didn't want to have the squabbling and the raging and the out of control emotions. And I wanted to be with someone who could talk about their feelings and we could work things out, not just be reactive. And, I knew that on a personal level, that I wanted to choose someone that was worthy of me and vice versa, and that I could truly give my whole heart and be able to trust that person. And so it's kind of like, manifesting in a sense. If you feel good about yourself, then, the miracles come to you. And you've got to be able to be watchful and to be able to see it. So, like I say, love is all around us, and we can make the decision to upgrade ourselves or to be able to connect with someone else that's a family member or a friend, and be able to share and grow.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We've still got more time here, and it's exciting that you're joining us as always, and these amazing discussions that we keep continuing to talk about. And, we've all heard the saying that journey starts with that first step, right? But a lot of us don't know where to start. But there's still so much more you want to talk about. So continue. Go ahead. We just go off script all the time, which is fine.
Okay, I do want to go back to that
Yes.
last situation of making choices, and how our actions or another person's actions can affect us so immensely. Because I wanted to mention that there's a client that I worked with recently, and he came from a very poor family, and he was always hungry because there wasn't enough food in the house. And he didn't necessarily get all that love and attention that he needed. And so what he would do is he would go as much as he could to his grandmother's house. And every time his grandmother saw him, she would cook up a big pot of beans. And so to this day, that's his favorite food. That's his comfort food, that whenever he wants to feel soothed, it is through eating hot homemade beans. And so I just tell you that because it can be these simple gestures. It doesn't have to be all the hugging and all that, because you know that the person is showing love to you in the best way possible. So you talked, Jill, about our journey starting with the first step. And so when I start that first step, especially with a couple, then remember I mentioned that I go through their family of origin and go through each person's characteristics and then bring that together so that they have a greater awareness of how they became the persons that they are, and where they come together as well as where there could be potential conflicts. And so that's something that I take very seriously, but sometimes we've got blinders on. And so we need to be able to reach out to someone else of a trusted source that can truly support you.
Yeah.
And because in your best attempts to grow, you only know what you know. And so you're kind of operating within a narrow bandwidth. And so what I want you to know is that other people can see things that you don't know and can be your guide. So
Beautiful.
I'll turn it back over to you, Jill.
Well, I think that's amazing because you're here and you're helping, so many really make that start. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I also wanted to mention something that's called the Johari window.
Yes.
So
What is that? What is that?
So it's like a window pane where there are 4 quadrants. And so each quadrant is a little different. And so the first one is information that's known to you and to the other person. So the other person knows about your eye color or your body build, whether you're approachable, good conversationalist, whether you smile often, or whether your mouth is in a frown, whether you speak kindly and be encouraging, or the opposite, that you can only focus on yourself and your accomplishments, your revelations, so forth. So that's something that's the first pane, the window pane, as to information that's known to you and to the other person. The second is that the information is known to you alone, but it's not made public to the others. Like they don't know that you go through bouts of sadness, or that there might be bipolar episodes that you struggle with, or that you have periods of intense irritability and impatience and low self-esteem, as well as anxiety. And so they may guess by some of your actions and your moods when you're around them, but they really don't know as to how shameful you feel or how embarrassed you feel and how much pain this causes for you. And so there's the third pain, and that is where information is known to others, but not yourself. And this is where, someone like myself as a coach comes in, because I can let you know the things that you don't know about yourself, and also the pathways as to how to change. But to give you an examples of things that are, quote, invisible to you would be, first of all, like bad breath, or having that green lettuce in your teeth while you're on a date with a special person.
I would always tell you, don't worry, and vice versa. I hope you would too.
Yeah. So, it can be things like that you may not realize at all, that you really don't know how to listen. And then there's a tendency to jump from subject to subject, to just change it and to draw the attention back to yourself. And so then the fourth is that the information is not known to you and to the other person.
Wow.
The thing that I want you to know is that the number 4, where it's unknown to both, well, I have different ways of finding out what that information is. And soon I can begin to be the one to show you the right path, so that it's not trial and error, where it's the do-it-yourself approach, where it takes forever and the results are not as perfect as you'd like.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mamiko. We appreciate your time here today.
Well, I appreciate you, and I'm excited to share any and all information for sure.
Well, tell us how we can reach out to you, and I want to know more about that free consultation that you offer.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'd love for people to call me, and the sooner you call me, the faster you'll be on your way to intimacy and love with yourself and with others. And I just want you to know that I have a new website. And it's easy to remember, because this is how I always end any presentation, and that is Act on Love. So it's www.actonlove.com is my new website that's still in progress, but you'll get a better idea as to who I am and how I work and the ways that I can actually help you. And there are testimonials that are on there. And so please take a look. And one of the things that I've added, by the way, this is a new adventure for me, is a toll-free number, because I want to be accessible to all of you. Some of you might just have landlines or something like that. So anyway, that number is 855-608-4800. So 855-608-4800. And you'll find that number on my website. And one of the things that, it's still a work in progress, but I think it's working now, and that is you can leave your information and to success@drmamiko.com, success@drmamiko.com, which is my private email address. So There are many ways to get in touch with me. So start your journey now for a better today and tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you here, and we will see you hopefully next week. Always a pleasure, darling, and enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the weekend. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye, Dr. Mamiko.
My pleasure.
Enjoy.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.